Terminus.
So we're going to have a little bit of a longer video today because we are covering one of my level 50s. This is also going to be kind of a what happened to you Terminus, because Terminus is a character I never see in casual unless they're like either a diehard Terminus player, which there are a lot of, or they're a noob and they're just trying Terminus out. So, I want to start with Terminus, first off. He's probably one of the weakest strong tanks in the meta right now. For example, when you think of strong tanks, you think of Atlas, you think of Khan, you think of Anara, you think of Makoa. These are usually your stronger tanks. And occasionally, you'll see a lot of Barrack now. Barrack's another strong tank. I see more Barrack on console than I do Makoa, but you'll see Ash, you'll see Nenda, really, and you see Torval. Really, the characters you don't see a lot of are, surprisingly, Ruckus and Terminus. Why is that? Well, you have to look at Terminus' kit. He's a melee range character. He is only effective at melee for damage. I mean, his Calamity Blasts have a cooldown on them, and they don't deal that much damage. His Shatterfall is great, but you have to put points into it to be effective. As Power Siphon is his strongest ability, that and his Revive. So why are we talking about Terminus in such a bad way? Well, Terminus, to be quite honest, just isn't as strong as a lot of people really think he is. On long maps with open sightlines, Terminus is ridiculously weak. So I want to look at loadout cards in a minute. We need to look at these abilities first to understand what's strong about them. Right now, all of his legendary cards are kind of stupid. So you have Crush, where Shatterfall stuns enemies for 1 second and doesn't slow them. Now, the downside to this, compared to normal, is it's harder to capitalize on Crush. People tell me people would say, what, that's ridiculous. When you Shatterfall on someone, you're slowing them by 60% for 2 seconds. What that means is that you are able to get off usually 2 attacks on that character guaranteed. Especially if you have nimble or movement speed in your kit. So it means that you are able to close the distance and keep after them and keep aggressive. So that's a pretty big chunk of damage. We're talking about a 1300 burst plus the Shatterfall, which is an additional 500. That's an 1800 burst if you can pull it off. And as they buy resilience, while the duration of that goes down, you're still going to be, unless they get to resilience 3, you're still guaranteed 1 hit. With Crush and the Shatterfall now stunning, it means that you are basically not even guaranteed to hit if their timing is correct. It stuns enemies for 1 second, but it takes you 1.1 second to swing at them, which means if they have, like, maxed out resilience, then what's going to happen is you're going to be able to, like, if you're a Koga, Shadow Step away instantaneously. And because there's no slow effect on it, it doesn't really matter. You can use an ability to get out. Same situation with Eevee. Eevee is a champion that people think is really hurt by Crush. She's really not, because if she can recover in time, she can blink away. And the more resilience you get, the less of that 1 second stun is there. It's mostly there to help the enemy team and to guarantee 1 or 2 few hits on stragglers. Decimation is pretty shit. It buffs the damage from your Calamity Blast from 250 to 350. But a legendary card just to increase the amount of damage your Calamity Blast does is absolutely pathetic. In my opinion, Decimation should be a loadout card that lets you buff the amount of damage your Calamity Blast does by each Calamity Blast charge you have. So every Calamity Blast charge that you have increases the damage of your Calamity Blast by an additional 20, 40, 60. That should be a loadout card. I don't think it should be a legendary. Because Decimation is kinda shit. It ups the damage you get from 250 to 350, and you do get to fire off up to 5 Calamity Blasts, which is a 1250. Oh no, 4 Calamity Blasts, sorry, which is 1,000 burst, and that kind of ups it a little bit because you're adding it, so you're making it a 1,400 burst. That doesn't mean jack shit though, to be honest. Like, I'm telling you right now, the extra damage from the Calamity Blast is nothing, because Terminus' loadout cards are more designed around holding on to his Calamity Blast than they are using them. And then Undying, which is solid because it gives you a good chunk of damage reduction while you're below a lower threshold, is always helpful, but the fact of the matter is, it's probably one of the least played cards. So we look at cards, and you notice how there are just by looking at it already, there is so many of the same loadout cards in there. And part of the problem is Terminus has a lot of good loadout cards that need to be at tier 5 to be effective. So we have Death to Ming, which is pretty much my sustain build. This is a very odd sustain build. I like it. Mostly for the Playing God level 4 right there. It's kind of a flanking build and a tanking build. I have the increased Wrecking Ball and the increased Playing God. Strength of the Iron Fist is a full damage reduction, so this has Playing God 4 as well, and Strength of Stone. This gives you up to 20% damage reduction based off the number of charges you have. Basically, you get 5% damage reduction for each Calamity Blast you have stored. So, this is an insane thing because you can pair this up with Undying and make him into a strong tank, having 40% damage reduction when below 40% of your health on top of Haven or Blast Shields that you already have. You have Ravenholm, which is kind of an aggressive build. Again, the 40% damage reduction, the 20% damage reduction is dead, but you also get 5% movement speed per Calamity Blast. So this can give you up to 20% movement speed and 20% charges, but it takes away your long-range power. The reason why this is such a strong combination to have... I'm going to Playing God out. Put it onto... Put it on Necromantic Might. Ah, fuck it. I'll just... This lets you not only have some damage reduction to get up in faces and people bully, but also gives you the speed to bully them. You have Battering Ram, which is very good with stuns. This is 40% damage reduction for 3 seconds after landing from Shatterfall. Now you can actually run this with Undying. This is a Strength of Stone build as well, so it gives you another additional chunk of damage reduction. I just like those cards because I don't find myself using the Calamity Blast that often. I run Death to Ming pretty much if I'm going to use my Calamity Blast. And then you have the Tom Brady 6-ring special, where this is a decimation build, where it basically lets you generate a lot of charges, and then shooting enemies, you can heal for 200 health per hit when you hit somebody with your Calamity Blast, so it lets you regen a bit of health. This is actually my shit build, but I don't really touch it. So let's look at some of the bad cards for him first. Weaken Rebuild him is a very weak card. While below 50% health, you receive additional healing. Now this card recently received a rework. It used to be from other players. It is now just increased healing. That increases its effectiveness and makes it a bit stronger. The problem is you don't really want damage reduction on him more than you do increased healing, because you pretty much have to buy rejuve anyways. It Watches is a good card at level 5, and that's about it. Where hitting enemies with your axe generates 10% of your power siphon charge back. The problem is your power siphon charges relatively quickly. And the fact that it takes you a second to swing your axe, is going to be about the same charge that is. So you're basically just doubling the amount of charge that you are getting. It's not really worth the additional 5 points. Forsaken, where hitting enemies with your axe generates up to 50% of a calamity charge. This is interesting because this card would work best on builds that require Calamity Blast. For example, Strength of Stone, or It Follows. The problem is it just isn't viable because you need 5 points into Strength of Stone, and you need 5 points into It Follows to really be aggressive. Whereas you have to put 5 points into Forsaken for it to be useful. And it's completely outdone by the card Necromantic Might. So there's no reason to run that card. Hulking Monstrosity is always great. The extra health really helps him bully other people or just sustain more on point. It Follows and Strength of Stone are very good, but they dictate that you pretty much don't use your Calamity Blast unless you, need to use them. I'll show you in-game what I mean by that. Devastation is a strong card at level 4 or 5. The 200 and the 250 per hit means that if you're able to hit all of your Calamity Blast into somebody, you can get an 800 to a 1000 heal, depending on if you have it 4 or 5, off of hitting those Calamity Blasts, but it does not work against shields or deployables. That's important to note. The downside is that card means you can't run Strength of Stone, you can't run It Follows. And Abomination is bad because it gives you 5% ult charge for every Calamity Blast you hit, which isn't that strong. You could go for a build like Abomination at 5 and Forsaken at 5, and It Watches in there somewhere, but you really can't balance the amount of charges. They're just not good. Forsaken, It Watches, and Abomination regen percentages of either your Siphon or your Calamity Blast are just not that strong. There are much better cards. Power Slave is a card I'm not really fond of because it's glitchy. It's one of those cards that doesn't really activate all the time if you're running certain cards. Like if you're running any of the other Power Siphon cards, Power Slave will not work. I don't like Power Slave. Basically, it reduces how slow you are while you hold up your Siphon, but if you're good with your position, you really don't need that card. These are 3 of his strongest cards, and these are your primary options for fillers as well. So Playing God is always strong because it heals the amount of damage that you absorb with Power Siphon up to 25%. At 20%, you can pretty much sustain yourself. So early game, when Terminus pretty much can just siphon anything into oblivion, you can recharge a lot of health back. And Playing God is not affected by Cauterize. This is one of the strongest cards that you have in your deck because it means you can pretty much sustain yourself. I've actually played games with no healing whatsoever, and we've won because of Playing God. Necromantic Might is great because it reduces the damage required to generate a charge. This is always a nice, helpful thing. You can put a lot of points into it and make it a really quick, oh, they're not going to give me charges. Oh, this is awesome. Because the few times that they do shoot your Siphon, if they're trying to avoid it, you're going to get charges that much faster. And if they're just unloading into your Power Siphon, then you can just turn around, unload charges in their face, put the Siphon back up, and unload some more charges in their face. It works great off of Decimation because of the fact that you're going to be getting up charges so fast. Really, you're going to be waiting more on the 2-second cooldown than anything. And you have Strength of Stone, It Follows, which it makes even stronger because you'll be able to regen it quicker. I like it as a filler, but you can put some points into it. You also have It Waits. It Waits is a strong card, even as a filler. It makes it so that the cooldown of Shadowfall, which is your longest cooldown on him, by the way, goes down the more that you siphon. For every second that you siphon, you reduce the cooldown of Shadowfall. Now, while yes, this is a bit redundant because it's similar to It Watches, the strength of it comes from the fact that normally while you are power siphoning, you really aren't thinking about like cooldowns and shit like that. This card is helpful because normally when you run out of Power Siphon, you want to Shatterfall to either get away from the enemy or to break, or to try and like push up and get some more damage while your Siphon is recharging. This card helps with that. These cards are a bit interesting. Despoiler is a solid card. This heals you for up to 500 health for every enemy that you hit with your Shatterfall. So if you were to have this card at level 5 and you were to hit into a large group of enemies, you could potentially be getting anywhere from 1,000 to a 2,000 health heal, which is insane. The downside to this is it's a bit outmatched in my opinion by Playing God because this is affected by Cauterize. Playing God makes it a bit harder for you to be Cauterized. Blood and Stone is a solid card, up to 50% life rip by enemies affected by Shatterfall for 3 seconds. That is strong, but it doesn't work with Crush, because on Crush, they're only stunned for a second, which means they're going to get away from you faster. So you're not getting as much life rip out of them as compared to having Blood and Stone with something like It Follows, so you can kind of close that distance and get your life rip out. It's also a life rip card. So this means that you're getting at level 5 with no Cauterize, you're getting 325 a swing, whereas Despoiler is guaranteeing you a lot more. That is guaranteeing you a 500 heal. Unfeeling is a solid card, but again, you have to put a lot of points into it. This gives you up to 40% damage reduction for 3 seconds after landing from the Shatterfall, which is incredibly strong on Terminus. And you have Wrecking Ball, which increases the leap distance and is one of my personal favorites. Now that I've rambled on for a bit, let's jump into a game, and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Terminus.
Terminus is in a very odd spot. I love him as a tank. Most people play him as like this bully, aggressive character that's not meant to sound point. He is so strong because of the damage reduction potential he has. If you have damage reduction off of when you have Calamity Blast, if you have damage reduction off of Shatterfall, if you're running Undying, and you run Blast Shelter Haven, you can just stack and stack and stack, and he can basically turn into a mini Inara. This point control monster, because no one can get on the point because of his melee attacks, and no one can kill him because of his DR. But he's also incredibly effective as a bully, running additional movement speed with It Follows, running additional lunge range with Wrecking Ball makes you such a strong, aggressive type character. The downside that you have to run into when it comes to Terminus is he's not that great overall. Once you run out of Power Siphon, you have no way to defend yourself and your team. If the enemy team forces you to is staying at range, they're either forcing you to push to them using your Shatterfall to get over, to which they can just run away. So now you're no longer on the point, you're away from your team, and you're not in striking range of the enemy team. Or it forces you to just sit there and stay and take it. Your Calamity Blasts are just shit. They're meant to be shit. They have a fucking 2-second cooldown on them, and they hardly deal any damage. Oh, well, you can just run Decimation. But his cards are designed around holding on to the charges more. Those cards are a lot stronger. To be honest, I think I've played that build like 3 to 4 times. It's just not that strong. On a side note, I am going to be playing... Okay. I am going to be playing more Killer. Because... for Dead by Daylight, I don't know, I had some fun yesterday playing some Killer. I might have to do some streams in order to play Killer, but... I was having some fun doing it yesterday. So... let's wait on a lobby for this. And it's Sunday morning on NA. I don't expect I'm getting a game anytime soon. We can look and see at Terminus how effective he really is. I think the problem is he's kind of just outmatched by other tanks. So if you look at a character like Ashe right now is able to bully a bit more because she has knockback when she runs out of shielding, and she has damage reduction for other things. Fernando, he can bully.
Champion.
Let's see.
Make your champion your own.
This is going to be interesting here. Look, I'll take a Genos heal. I really will. Like, just something. Oh my god. I'm going to have to run a Playing God build here, so that's probably going to be Death to Ming. That's unfortunate. Yep, I gotta run a Playing God build. So, automatically, this is another thing as well. So, automatically, by the way, we're kind of fucked because now we have tons of blast damage because we have Term, Drogoz, and Willow. So now we have 3 dedicated blasters plus Terminus, which is an area damage. That's gonna suck. Ah. They have Emoji, which counters my ult. They have a Barrack, who's just gonna sit up top there and be fucking annoying. Ah. This is an annoying game already. We're not winning this game. Especially with the state that Terminus is. Again, Terminus loses to Barrack because Barrack is able to sustain himself a lot better. Are we actually going into a game, maybe? Put on a hold. See if that does it. What the hell? That's just retarded. What the hell? There we go! Oh, Colby Kenobi. Okay, so they have a good Willow on their side. Other than that, that team is garbage. This is the thing that I like about Paladin. You can have a complete team comp mismatch, but because one team with a superior comp is less skilled, you can win that. We have to go Undying here. I've got Strength of the Iron Fist I could run with. I think that's going to be stronger than Death to Ming, because I'm not going to be using the Shatterfall as much. We need to go Cauterize immediately. Do have a little bit of a top there, okay?
Prepare for battle!
Snack attack. Recurve.
5, 4,
Mortal
3,
Reach, I figured
2,
as much. Blast Flower, we don't know what Barrack is going. If Barrack just sits there up top all game, I'm going to be annoyed.
First blood. Keep up the good work.
That's why I like that card better than the other one. Just fed me 3 charges. Just start zoning them, try and get them DR. Nope. I needed a heal there, but we don't have one. They have blast damage and Haven, so I'm going for Haven first. I will pick up blast shields as soon as I die, and I'll pick up morale boost. Because you need morale boost on Terminus. Ah, I fucking timed that. I thought I would just clear of it. See, while I don't have a Calamity Blast, I can just sit there and keep shooting. Nice. Use that to get behind the shield. I want to take out his turret. That's what I want to focus on. Yeah, I got him to shoot. So now I don't have to worry about siphoning too much because I have just so much damage reduction right now. This is kind of boring. People don't like this about Terminuses. You kind of just sit there and like... You gotta just sit there. See, I can burn the charges. Oh, wow. Good job on that, Moji. I got blast shields and morale boost, so I'm good now. 72% on ult, that's not bad. I still get the heal off of that in the dead zone. I don't know what you... Gotcha. You can't run from that. I have ult. I'm gonna pop over there. Wait on that, just dropping it all. Fuck you. Don't run. probably a waste of charges, but I can regen it back, and I can get a little bit of health back when I do it. That's why I blow the charges there. That kill was more important than anything else. Yeah, I kind of wanted to bully him though. It was a morale boost. I don't max out the morale boost here, but it's just so strong on Terminus when you can max out morale boost. That's not gonna work on me. Shouldn't have wasted so much siphon. Yeah, I shouldn't have wasted so much siphon there.
Hey, look out behind us! Too fast for ya?
Wait, we've had a sky? What the hell? Yeah. Yeah, she did a good job countering my ult. Flash shields too.
Time's ticking.
And like a lot of people are like, oh, you should buy kill today, you should buy life rep. There's no real point because I've got just so much regen with playing God. Yeah, keep feeding me. Yeah, force her to run away. That's gonna go through the siphon, I forgot. Eat it. There you go. I can regen some of my charges back already. My damage was actually going to keep me alive! Definitely in the blast shield 3. Oh, we're gonna win next kill, so... Yeah, we had such a bad team comp and we won just because we had a better group of players. I know how to play Term, Drogos knows how to play Drogos. I would say our Andro was decent. I didn't see the sky at all. The Willow, 50-50. I don't know, I'll give her some credit.
Well done.
You don't always need a healer, you don't always need a tank for TDM and Onslaught. That's why I always pick like TDM and I pick Onslaught because it gives you a little bit of point play and it gives you a little bit of like just bully, aggressive team play. That's why when we do those videos I always go for I always go with Onslaught. It's one of those game modes that I kind of like playing Onslaught. TDM can be kind of boring. Siege can be kind of boring sometimes. So if you look at the stat that we did, 289 objective times, 6 kills, 6 deaths, 9 assists, 30k damage. I was the only person that had less damage than me was the Andro. Andro and Sky died more than me. No one else had a higher objective time. When you look at their team, though, as well, it's like, if we had a healer, I don't think it really would have mattered. Their healer got countered out pretty quickly, because our team knew what they were doing. The Moji was a solid counter to me. The Willow was very strong. The Barrack was pretty strong. I'd say their Shaolin was definitely the weak spot on their team. Shaolin Saras. But, overall, that's a good game. But, that's Terminus for you. So, hope you all enjoyed.